Turtle. Oh, turtle. Let's get him off the road. Let's get the turtle off the road, folks. No cars coming. We're good to go. Put on the hazards. Have you been hit, buddy? Are you okay? Seems okay. Alright, now he's struggling. Alright, dude, off you go. There you go, that's better. Done our good deed for the day. Watch out for turtles, guys. Alright, so I rode the CBR500R. And I'll tell you all about it in this video. So let's cue the cool montage. Alright, so now we're on the CBR500R. And this one's much more sporty. I'm leaned into the wind. It's the same engine, so it's going to be the same power, but it's much more of a sport bike. I'm much more on top of the bike here rather than sitting in the bike. It's got no problem staying at speed. Highways would be a breeze on this thing. It's got a gear indicator, which the other one didn't. And it's got the revs here too. It is a sporty riding position. My knees are definitely bent quite a bit. I'm more in a sporty tuck. But if you're touring and you're going a long distance, you can sit way further back. Actually, the seat is really nice. What I like about this seat is that you can scoot back on it. The seat is flat and wide and very, very, very comfortable. The brakes are a bit more sensitive on this one. They both have a very kind of deep, menacing growl to them. We're in 5th gear. I want to put it down in 4th gear. Acceleration's pretty good. Weather protection is surprisingly good on this thing. I'm really not in the wind at all. And the ride is very nice. It's very smooth over the bumps. Suspension is well done here. That's a comfy bike. It's a comfy bike, even though you're in a more sporty position. At this speed, there's more weight on my wrists here as I'm cruising, but once you get up to speed, the little bit of wind hitting your chest kind of keeps you up. So we're just in 4th gear here. Pop it down to 3rd. Yeah, it's got lots of power. Lots of power. You can see that it just, once you get it up to 6,000 RPM, it wants to pull hard. And it's handling these bumps on the road. Like, look at this pavement. This pavement is pretty crappy. I'm not feeling anything. None of that is being transferred to my back, to my butt, nothing. All these little bumps. This bike is very, very plush. I'm impressed. Guys, people talk about horsepower numbers and things like that. This is all the bike that you need as a rider. And my knees are quite bent when I'm sitting here, so it's a low seat height. But I am on top of this one. I'm on top of this bike, whereas I was sitting inside the other one. You can see the position on the Rebel is very different from the position on the CBR. It is a sport bike and it looks gorgeous, by the way. I mean, LED signals, you can see, lights. It looks like a Fireblade. It looks like a much higher end, more powerful bike than it is. Doesn't look like a beginner bike for sure. Neither one of them are. Very high quality. And when you're just cruising on it, it's very smooth. Yeah, there's some wind on my shoulders right now. There's almost no turbulence around my helmet, which is nice. Very nice around the corner. It's not super light. It's not like one of the 300s. It feels like a bigger bike. But it's very thin between your knees. I wouldn't describe it as being super nimble, but it's very planted. And of course, any of these kind of turns, it can handle very well. Yeah, very planted, confidence inspiring. This is a great bike for a beginner. I have severely underestimated this bike just because I looked at the spec sheet, I looked at the horsepower numbers, and I went, 47 horsepower. You got an SV650 with 75, and yeah, an SV650 is more powerful and faster than this bike, but this bike just so refined, smooth, nice, handles well. They're about the same weight. But this one keeps the air off you. The handlebars are higher than a Super Sport. I used to have a 600, and that was no fun to tour on, let me tell you. But yeah, I could totally tour on this. Well, let's break it down by the different categories. First category, looks. Love him. Love this bike. This bike looks way faster and way meaner than it actually is, which some might say is not a good thing, but you know, it's not a bike meant for super advanced riders. But even if you're a beginning rider, you might want to have a bike that looks as cool as the top of the line Super Sports. So if you want that, this is the bike for you, because this one, it looks just as good as the Fireblade. Woo! I'm gonna sit down, close my shield. There we go. Nice hot day today, so I'm gonna cool off by standing. So, this bike is very nice looking. I mean, when you look at the details on this bike, typical Honda refinement. Typical Honda attention to detail and fit and finish. And that is a good thing, because Honda does it better than, well, they do it better than any other Japanese manufacturer, for sure. and they do it better than almost any other manufacturer. Maybe some of the Italian manufacturers make prettier bikes than Honda does, but that's debatable. It's a bike that you can park next to a bunch of 1000cc sport bikes and feel like, hey, I'm not out of place here. Alright, so let's talk about the engine. 471cc engine, the same as in the Rebel 500, the same as in the CB500X, and the same as in the CB500F. What's this engine like? Well, you know, it is a 47 horsepower engine, so it is designed for more beginning riders. It's not going to scare the piss out of you, that's for sure. If you get on a 600cc sport bike that's got over 100 horsepower and you rev that thing up to 8,000 RPM and start to really whip that thing around, those things could scare you. Those things could surprise you, and you could end up, you know, getting yourself dumped pretty well. But this bike is a bike that will give you enough performance that you can challenge yourself, that you can keep up with the crowd. If you're going so fast that you're outstripping the performance potential of this bike, then you're going too fast on the roads. I mean, I'm out here, look at this. A deer could jump out at any moment. A moose could start walking across at any moment. A bear might start chasing me at any moment, in which case you need more power. But anyways, you know what I mean. You're not, if I whipped around this corner and these corners as fast as I could and lean this bike way over, you know what, I could get around this corner and find a truck broken down in my lane on the other side, and me going too fast while leaned over to brake and effectively stop myself from crashing. So the engine in this Honda is just enough to keep you quite entertained for quite a while, but not enough for you to basically launch yourself into orbit and do something. Even if you're being stupid, you're not. The bike is forgiving enough to let you get away with it, right? You can be abrupt with the throttle. Right? If you're a beginning rider, that's one thing beginning riders haven't maybe mastered yet. Steady throttle around corners while leaned over, all that kind of stuff. Well, this bike isn't going to punish you for that. 1000cc sport bike, you might slide out, you might high side, who knows? Alright, so let's talk about handling on this bike. It is sporty without being kind of razor sharp. If you've ever ridden a top of the line sport bike, you know what I mean. Sport bikes, super sports and super bikes are built to go around the track, and so they're kind of twitchy. They tend to have really steep steering angles, and they tend to require a good steady hand at the helm to put them where you want to put them. You can't be ham-fisted with them too much. Well, the CBR500R is definitely more forgiving than that. It's a nice handling, sporty ride without being overly, overly demanding. So the suspension is definitely a little bit more budget, but it's adjustable front and back, which a lot of bikes in this price range don't have. And it feels quite planted. The bike feels planted and well sorted. I was impressed with the cornering ability of this bike. I was impressed with how well it went over kind of road imperfections and things like that. And at no point was I thinking, well, this is, I wasn't going that hard because it was a test ride and I couldn't really take the bike out and test it out at its full potential. But road handling, it's got everything you need to handle road-paced riding. If you take it to the track, you're going to come up against the limits of the suspension. Okay, when you're going all out on the bike, it's not going to handle like the 600 Super Sports. So the riding position, the riding triangle on the bike, It is a street bike, and it is comfortable on the street. Legroom, of course, is going to be limited, but your feet are not behind you. Your feet are underneath you. Kind of similar to what the riding position is actually very similar to what a lot of naked bikes offer. Maybe the handlebars are slightly lower, they're clip-ons, but they're high clip-ons. Weather protection is amazing with the fairing. I love faired bikes for that reason. A lot of people underestimate the importance of weather protection on a motorcycle, but I certainly don't. I love a bike, now let's go this way actually. I love a bike with good weather protection. And generally this is a riding position that I would say is very sport touring. It's not a sport bike riding position. If you're looking for a sport tour, or maybe something like a VFR riding position, then this bike is that kind of bike. You can be comfortable on it all day. Madawaska River, there it is, look at that. Beautiful. Cottage Country River. Let's also touch on, I already touched on the suspension, but as far as comfort goes, let's touch on the fact that you can ride pavement like this on that bike and it handles it like a champ. I mean, just stuff like this, which my bike of course handles no problem because it's an adventure bike. I'm not used to sporty bikes handling this kind of stuff that well, but the suspension is forgiving enough that you can ride stuff like this and feel perfectly at home. You don't have to have perfect roads to ride this bike and be comfortable, in other words. So who is this bike for? Well, like I said, if you're looking to sport tour, this bike is perfect for that. If you're a beginning rider wanting to get into sport bikes for the first time, but not wanting to get into something that will end up smearing you all over the pavement because your skills aren't quite up to par yet, this is perfect for that. If you're wanting to just, have a really nice looking sporty bike where you're not going to take it to the track and you're not going to have anything to prove, well, this is a great bike for that. It's you're going to spend less money. You're going to spend way less money on insurance than people with your friends with their 600s. You're going to be more comfortable on the road. It's a perfect little bike. It doesn't over rev when you're at highway speeds. Both of these bikes, the Rebel and the CB500X and the CBR500R, none of them tend to over rev. So this bike is for that sport rider that wants something a little bit soft-edged. It is for the sport tourer that wants to go the long distance. It is for the young rider who doesn't want anything too intimidating. And it is also for the budget-minded rider who wants a nice-looking bike. But I'm just gonna stop here and pull over because this is a view worth taking your time with here. Look at this. That's nice. The hills. This is what it's all about, boys and girls. How can you not love this kind of riding? You come here out of the city and you wonder, why am I living in the city? Because that's where the jobs are, that's why. So thanks for watching, guys. Please subscribe, please like, please comment. If you've got anything to say, anything to throw in, anything to contribute, if you want to yell at me in all caps, by all means do so below the video. The full specs of the bike are below. If you need to know anything more, ask me. If I can answer your question, I certainly will. Like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff, I already said that. And may the spokes be with you.